Hey, it's Derek Richards. It's a drink with Derek. Having a glass of Kavanaugh Irish whiskey single malt in celebration of my recent COVID-19 negative test. So I am extremely thrilled. By the way, all episodes of A Drink with Derek are on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in A Drink with Derek, and everything will pop up there. I am honored today to be sitting here talking with in the friendly confines of his rec room / garage, I'm guessing.
And to quote Chevy Chase from the movie Fletch, I like to call it my lanai.
Joe Spraker, extremely talented musician, piano player, vocalist, who has been working here in Las Vegas for 17 years, been the music director for Sheena Easton for the past 15 years. You're not from here in Las Vegas. We'll get to that here in a second. You grew up in the mountains of Virginia and learned how to play in church and also in bluegrass bands.
Well, when I was very young, my dad would take me to bluegrass festivals in the area that's near us. Was home of, for instance, the oldest running bluegrass convention in the country called the Galax Fiddlers Convention. We'd go see things like that. We go down in certain little state roads down there and see different bluegrass bands, which is really just a bunch of musicians coming out of the hills, and they'd open up a bottle of whiskey and start picking, and Dad would take it. But also grew up playing in church, and then I did go into college for music. So I am studied, but
so
yeah.
So you go to the bluegrass festival, play bluegrass music, and get drunk, and then go to church on Sunday and confess your sins, and then go ahead and then sing in the church as well, as more of it's kind of like your passage to heaven. Is that how this was being framed?
I think that's rather accurate. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Dad and I just the other day were talking about it, and a lot of those guys, they ran liquor, they ran moonshine, so they would run a truck all day, through the week, running moonshine across state lines, and then they'd get together on Saturday and they'd pick and grin and drink, and then they'd all go to church on Sunday. So.
Now, what part of Virginia did you grow up in? Because I've been through. People are familiar with like Alexandria. I've done gigs over in Alexandria, Blacksburg over by Virginia Tech, in Roanoke. But there is a lot of Virginia that is not those towns. So what bigger town were you near?
None. Well, you just mentioned Roanoke, and if you take Roanoke, about 40 minutes west, you get to Blacksburg. And then if you get to Blacksburg, go off the freeway about an hour into the hills, and that's where I'm from.
Whew, that is out there.
Well, we were a little bit out there, yeah.
How long when did you get out here to Las Vegas? You've been playing up and down the strip for 17 years. You work everywhere. You play in multiple bands. You play, obviously work with Sheena Easton. You work in a number of casinos, lounges, piano events, private parties, stuff like that. What brought you here to Las Vegas?
I worked for a Carnival cruise line, and I have a good friend who's a drummer here in town who moved here. He's from California, and we were best friends. We still are very close. And he moved here and said, "Hey man, there's work here, bro. There's you can gig." So I thought, let's check it out. And I came out and on a vacation from I was a solo piano bar entertainer for Carnival at the time. I think I was 27 or 28 years old, something like that. And I came out here and got a room at the Stardust, which I miss greatly. I love that hotel. And he said, "Hey, come down. I'm doing a show." Fantastic. Anyway, he said, "Hey, come down." He was doing a show in Laughlin and a show here in Vegas in the same week. And I went down to a couple of those. And then this was back when you had to have business cards on you, And so I walked the strip like what we all did when we moved here. You walk from property to property and you introduce yourself, sit in maybe if they allow it. And I came here for a vacation. I got rid of my room at the Stardust. I got an apartment, and I haven't left. So.
Do you miss doing the cruise ships at all? I do some cruise ship stuff now, and I like going out for like a week or two at a time. Now, I know that musicians go out there for much, much longer contracts. Do you miss doing that at all or no?
Not at all. It wasn't for me. I mean, I did it because it was the work that I had at the time. It was the choice I made, and they served me well. I learned a lot out there from the older musicians that were there, that more experienced, and I made some great friendships that I still am blessed with today. But I don't miss doing that full time for a living. I have gone out once or twice, like with, for instance, we did an HBO special, and she was part of the bill. So, I did enjoy that. It was just, popping out for a few days and doing a show and coming out. But yeah, I don't miss the full time cruise ship thing at all. No, not for me.
No, I don't blame you. What now? You've been with Sheena Easton for 15 years now. How did you meet? I mean, was this? Did you bump anywhere at Walmart and you're, hey, you need a music director? How did you? I was like hearing how these interactions started.
It's actually pretty well. It's not that exciting. The same drummer friend of mine that I worked for her for a little while, and of course her musical director at the time, the man I took over the job from, was going to leave to do a new show somewhere else, and so my buddy, the drummer, once again recommended me, and so I auditioned. I met the musical director. He said, "All right, seems like you've got the things, because you don't get to walk into that job as just a piano player. Like, you have to go in as the keyboard player, vocals, and musical director, band leader on the road. So it's you're in your late 20s, and it's gas pedal hits the floor. You're the man. So you got to have it together." And he thought it was cool. So he booked me to cover all that on one show. And it was literally an on-the-job audition. I mean, I met Sheena at a short beforehand, and then we went on the road, and she, evaluated how I did, both as a player, a singer, and a band leader, of course. And she liked me, and so everybody thought that would be a good fit, and she gave me the job. Now, that's obviously a job she can. She's very hands-on with her company, with her show. So she can change that at any point. She loves to, make sure she's got the right people around her. And I'm thankfully, I've been with her all this time. She's enjoyed the work I've done, and I've most certainly enjoyed the way she's treated me, fellow band members. And we're no longer just a work show group. We're the family. I mean, we literally go to each other's houses when we're sick. We go to parties. We hang with each other on the road, obviously, and send each other birthday cards, call each other when a parent dies or when someone's born, and all that. We're very close. So it's quite a blessing in my life having met her. And so I work my ass off to try to make sure she's comfortable in the job. Not only that, but also taken care of by her band members.
Now, does she live here in Vegas now? I know she's from Scotland.
Yes,
because I was looking at some video clips trying to find you. And it's really all about her, with that camera guy. Whenever you find Sheena Easton videos, live concert footage, it's all about her. I'm not seeing any Joe Spraker. I think you really need to kind of push yourself to the forefront a little bit more. Maybe just, when you see the tight camera shot on her, just kind of bump her out of the way a little bit. Get in there a little bit. You deserve some juice. I mean, you're working for it. Come on now.
People want to see is this ugly mug right up front instead of a Grammy-winning iconic vocalist. Yeah, they want to see this right here.
Listen, don't underestimate yourself. Don't sell yourself short. No, but so does she live here in Las Vegas now, or is she back over in the UK still? Or
she lives here? Yeah.
Okay. Cool. How did you? So now, did you guys have a bunch of dates lined up when the coronavirus came and just destroyed everybody's calendar? Or you guys on a hiatus at that time, and it didn't really affect you?
For not only Sheena, the tour schedule that she put together, but also my own solo work, and also a lot of the bands and other clients that I've worked for or with. It was on par to be maybe the biggest year we've had since probably 2007, 2006. So yes. It was devastating because all of the shows were canceled or postponed, and then of course as time went on, some of the venues actually closed permanently. Not even just a matter of moving the show; like they couldn't afford to keep the doors they're just waiting for enough money to come in so they can have the building demolished or sold. You know,
Right.
so that's very sad. But yeah, we had a pretty serious year coming up that was stopped.
So now when she's on the road, is she all Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, and tearing up the room, with a chainsaw and everything? I mean, spray
No,
the color that she wants it to be. It's like, I wanted halibut. What's with this trout? And then she just destroys the joint.
no, she's a sweetheart. She's everywhere we go. People want us back, and that's not only because of her, but also the band members, how we behave. She's certainly not Motley Crue. We certainly know how to go and let's just say enjoy an airport bar, but yeah, nothing like that. We make sure we go and take care of business first and put on a good show. Thankfully, everywhere we've played that I've been around for the 15 years I've been with her, they always like to have us back, and they always enjoy what the professionalism that takes place. So.
Yeah, I don't know. What's funny is you were just talking about how great of a year you had lined up for 2020. It's like literally almost every performer to the person has told me 2020 was going to be the bomb. I was all set. It was great. Everything. I haven't run into one person that went, thank God this COVID thing showed up because I had nothing happening. It's like every person I'm talking to is like, oh yeah, I had all kinds of stuff lined up, and
That from everybody, because honestly, I mean, it's everybody I know, of course, including myself. I mean, it was sailing hard up. It was everything was firing on all cylinders. Investors were throwing money like never before. Even corporate entities like casinos and showrooms and whatnot around the country and around the world were doubling down on all their stuff, their shows, their lounges, their bars, their gaming promotions. Everything was just bam, 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 all the way up. And so I suppose that makes it just that much more devastating when this takes place and you see such great progress just have to sort of fall apart for a while.
Now, where can you play now? Because I know there's some bands that are playing here in town, and I mean, you work everywhere, and people don't understand too when they say, oh, a musician is working a few hours a night. I mean, you guys on a good day can work like 3 and 4 gigs a day.
Pre-March, it was an average week for me to be doing, first of all, having a gig somewhere 7 days a week, and probably 3 or 4 of those days were doubles, meaning for the non-musician out there, meaning like I would, have say a private party event that, say I had to be there from 3 p.m. sound check, 5 o'clock to 7, do the event, then run down the street and do 7 to 10 in a lounge, or do another event or do a show. I mean, hell, I've actually, with one of my drummer buddies and a few of the bands that I work in, he and I actually pushed our carts of equipment across Las Vegas Boulevard at Flamingo to get from the Link to Caesars because it was faster than parking again. So, I mean, it's, yeah, we were blessed with working that way. Now, to answer your question, there's only a handful of rooms in town that have live music, and those that do, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, are smaller groups, duos, things like that. So there's not a whole lot of places. Now, I've been working more and more recently, things like weddings, not only in chapels throughout the town, which they've, the 2 biggies, MGM and Caesars, and then also the others have, for the most part, closed their chapels. And if they haven't closed them, they've replaced what was the full chapel and the full chapel staff with some convention workers running it, like in the interim. And right. So I know a couple of people where I come in and do those kind of things. So there's a small little solo things, takes 15 minutes, typical Vegas wedding, in and out. I've done some wedding events, like private residencies. I've noticed that I've been working a lot in the private party ring, which, for instance, I mean, over the years I've been here, I've come to know several guys who were guys and gals actually who are high rollers. They and they became fans of different bands I was in or that I led, And so they finally said, enough is enough. We can't get the casinos to cooperate. We can't put you guys anywhere where we can come see you. Instead, we're just going to book something privately. So you're going to someone's home or something they've booked out or rented, and go in there, and they're having a party where they bring their favorite band from years ago, and they hire us all to come in and just basically bring Las Vegas to them in a private setting.
That's a great idea.
I had one guy who put together a dealer, I guess a pit boss kind of person to watch everything, and put a blackjack table in a private residence so he could gamble and listen to the band. So
I love that. That is so cool.
Kind of guys that have some money are wanting to spend it, and I'm hoping that once we get past obviously the selection and the holidays, which are that's a whole lot of things going on there. I hope that once we get past that, it's going to be a situation where the guys who spin the wheels with the money are ready to start investing in some of these rooms, and maybe some of the rules that we have will start to ease up. They've started to ease up a little, see it more, and maybe those guys will spend some money. I think that's certainly possible, and I'm hoping for it, because that's nobody comes to Las Vegas to go to the bar. They come to Las Vegas for conventions, corporate events, private parties they've organized, and then they end up at the bar. So the corporate convention world is really the engine that drives this bus, and that requires investors. It requires guys not to be worried about spending money here. I know that in other places in town, and some of the different places you look or see online or whatnot, try to portray it as if Vegas is wide open, everything's back and it's cool. It's not. It's simply not. Some of the rooms in town are offering a fraction of the money they were offering beforehand for live entertainment, and that it's kind of a standard set, and some people will go along with it. I'm a proud union member, Musicians Union, AFM member, and I like to see everybody work together and make sure that nobody works for lower money than they should. I do understand people have to survive. It's a tricky tightrope to walk. You got to feed your family just like I do. But I hope that this new sort of standard that's been happening a little bit lately is short-lived, and that we can get back to business with the guys who have the money and want to come in here and spend it and enjoy Las Vegas the way it was meant to be enjoyed. You
end up getting a lot of these different places that, and on the road, like I just had a place in Florida, and Florida's they're much more wide open than we are here in Nevada. And I had someone booking a comedy club down there. Long story short, they're like, I said, well, yeah, I'm just confirming my date that I have with you coming up, and this is the money. And the guy goes, oh yeah, that was pre-COVID money. Now it was like a $200 reduction. And he puts in parentheses, we're trying to help them out. And I'm like, okay, this is in Florida where most things are much more open. Maybe not at 100% capacity, but I'm like, you know what? I got my plane ticket still costs the same. My rental car still costs the same. My gas still costs the same to put in the rental car. So it's like, I understand charity, and in the spirit of compromise, I mean, yeah, that's one thing, but I'm still doing the exact same number of shows for the exact same amount of time, and still having to buy a plane ticket and get a rental car and do all that stuff. So it's like, like I said, I get helping somebody out to a point, but it seems like promoters and some clubs and venues just seem to look at it as, well, this is, hey, I lost money. I don't care about you, the entertainer, be it musician, comedian, or whomever. It's like, well, yeah, I know you got your problems, but mine supersede yours.
Yeah, I get a lot of that kind of. I've seen, heard both personally and through other colleagues, that kind of rhetoric. First of all, this is obviously stuff that none of us have ever handled before.
Right.
We've all our lives. I don't care how old you are. None of this kind of thing has really happened. I mean, so it's all new territory. And I think that for entertainers, and I can only speak for, myself and some of the musicians, entertainers I know, but have to be wary, have to make sure that they don't, if you got a promoter or a club owner or a corporate entity like a casino or anything like that offering you too little money, well, then you owe it to yourself and your other colleagues to say no to. And it doesn't have to be an angry thing. And I get why they're saying, I mean, hell, everyone get excited when they said that you got 250 people in a room now the other week. And I'm like, well, what's that matter? And entertainers left and right are going, well, now we can have shows. Okay, but you still got to find somebody with the bankroll who's going to rent out a 1,000-seat theater to sell 250 tickets to social distance with the right distance from the stage. What show you're going to put in there? How much is the ticket going to cost? I mean, there's one guy paying for it. It's not about the number of people. It's not about the mandate. It's about, you got to have someone who's got the bread to put it up.
Right.
You know, I get it. Those guys are going, I don't want to spend that money. I understand your club owner saying, listen, if you want to do the gig, here's the money. I mean, I could only seat half my room, if that. I can only serve certain parts of my food. I can only do these things. Those are the rules. And so, this is the only amount of money I can pay. I don't blame the guy a bit. I get it. And then it's up to me to say yes or no. If I want to go down there for, 50% of the money that I was making before, I suppose I have the right to do so. And I might, I'm not above doing a job that pays less than it did before in some instances. But that's just up to the individual. I really hope that everybody would be on the same page in the entertainment world of not working for less than they're worth. But I also understand we got to put food on the table. Too, I mean, that's just
exactly. But I mean, also too, it goes back to, okay, is this, and we'll talk about this here in a second, but I mean, promoters have been noted for, since the beginning of entertainment, trying to find some way to screw over talent. And I'm going to ask you about a situation that, tell me your worst Joe got screwed over story by somebody, because when people don't think that, they go, oh, well, this is the contract and the band's going to get paid and everything's happy. It's like, there's a lot of layers to these contracts. I mean, there's a very monster promoter that produces a number of live shows around our great nation. And the general manager of a venue in Florida, I knew the guy, and they had Def Leppard playing there. Monster band, place is sold out. He told me on the side, he goes, well, yeah, we told the band that we needed to add extra security. So we charged them an extra $10,000 for security. And I go, did you need extra security? And he goes, no. And he just kind of giggled. And I'm like, all right, I get it. It's Def Leppard. I mean, they're worth a ton of money and they're making good dough, but you're going to just nickel and dime. And that was one concert, one instance with one band. So if people don't think that promoters are always trying to find a backdoor end around with certain things, and not all, but some. And so when you see something like that happening to a band at that level, you go, okay, the person playing a bar gig or a lounge gig or some other, smaller place just can seem to be so much more apt to be victimized.
Well, I will admit that even, ever since I was a teenager working bars and rock bands and whatnot, I mean, I've very often, let's just say, had to chase money. I'm not going to mention any specific.
No, that's fine.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I've had to chase money in some instances, from a bar owner or a club owner, and that comes with to be honest with you, between you and I both know that that's just part of the gig.
Yep.
You're not surprised about that any kind of thing anymore. You're not surprised at having, someone try to screw you out of something. I mean, now it's just par for the course in some cases. Thankfully, I in the last decade or more have avoided those kind of situations. If I smell any of that kind of blood in the water, I don't go there, because I'm all about trying to be positive and be a good musician and do the job. So if I smell something weird, I will say this though, I was heartbroken about something that happened here in Las Vegas just this past summer, where the city inspectors were then allowed to shut down live music for whatever they deemed their reasons. So I was at a venue with a small group and following all the protocols, the smaller band, the ambient thing, the masks, the seating, the no dancing, all the rules that they had, no bar top open at the time. All those things were legit. But I guess one of the city inspectors came in and didn't like, my band was not there that night. We had a substitute. And I guess he didn't like what was going on. And so he just shut live music down there for good until further notice, were the words that he wrote on the piece of paper. And I thought, okay, so we've actually found somebody shittier than a promoter. I thought I'd seen it all, Derek, but nope, there was a new level of low in government officiating. So
wait, is this Footloose? No dancing, no music, no fun, no nothing.
Oh goodness! I actually, speaking of Footloose, on a side note, you're a great comedian. I think I'll let you steal a joke from me. It was I read said we hope Kevin Bacon doesn't get COVID because that's going to be one hell of a contact tracing situation, right?
I got a joke for you here. A buddy of mine told me this, and a musician will appreciate this. These two cowboys are walking through Indian territory, and they hear this boom, 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 boom. The one cowboy looks at the other, and he goes, man, those drums don't sound good. All of a sudden, he gets a tap on his shoulder. It's this Indian. He goes, that's not our regular drummer.
I'm 100% stealing that one.
Go for it. It was a buddy of mine told it to me, and every musician I've told that to just dies laughing.
Oh, goodness gracious. I hadn't heard that one. That's good.
That way, if I told a musician a joke that didn't hear a musician joke, that's impressive. Is there any kind of a timetable set up for when bands can start to come back? I mean, when can you go back? I mean, I saw you play at the lounge at the Golden Nugget. I mean, you were fantastic, a brilliant keyboard player, great vocalist, and the band is so tight over there at the Nugget that you were playing with. When are you guys allowed to come back? Have they said anything, or is that just all up to the hotels now based on the restrictions and capacities?
Well, my understanding is that we are. I mean, bands are allowed to play now. There's certain venues in town that have bands, 4 pieces, and I think most of them are smaller scale, 4-piece, 3-piece duos. But it's allowed. It's just a lot of rules to it, and of course, a lot of the different companies are offering, some less money. So I don't think it's a matter of being allowed as much now as do you accept it, And of course, I understand some of the venues are I think 1 or 2 of them are, from what I've heard anyway, paying fairly. I mean, I guess, and it's coming around. I think it'll just take some time. But I mean, we came from mid-March. It was like every property had a room or two. Now, we already went through this in 2008 with that economic crisis, and which was a fraction of this. And I can remember then, I mean, a lot of rooms turned into Starbucks or turned into a ultra lounge with canned music or turned into, they found ways to try to eliminate the cost of live entertainment. And I get that too. I dig it. If you can make your bottom line better by doing that, then wonderful. And some places succeeded doing it. Now other places did it and realized the error of their ways and that they were sort of relying on live music to bring in the gamblers, to bring in the people to go shopping and eat the steakhouse and etc. And they turned it around. So it took us 12 years to turn that one around, to turn 2008 around, to get back to where, we were. That was still diminished from before 2008. So I don't know. In the entertainment world, you kind of get used to this every 10 or 12 years. I mean, before that was, the economic fallout and everything from 9/11. So it had less tourism and things like that. And then in the 90s, we had a strike before that, and it happens in cycles. And so we're allowed to answer your question. We're allowed to play. It's just a matter of who's going to hire, going to pay. So and I'm ready to rock. So I mean, if somebody says, hey, this room's paying this amount of money. It seems fair for everyone. Everyone's in agreement. So we're all doing it. I mean, I'm out there playing now. Most of my colleagues are out there gigging here and there a little bit, but certainly not what was before March, you know, where we all were able to pay our rent and mortgage and car payments and feed our kids on being entertainers. You know, I think that's probably a good ways away. I hope it's sooner than later.
Yeah, I know. Well, have you heard of stuff that's just simply not going to come back?
Well, no, I don't. I can't say anything. I don't think there's anything that's that set in stone, black and white, about not coming back. I think everything is. I will admit that, like the concert venues, with the thing that Live Nation has done, where Live Nation changed a lot of their rules about deposits, how the contract deals with acts of God and force majeure and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Have changed the color of that very drastically. It'd be very hard to get a high-end entertainer like an Elton or an icon of some sort to go ahead and invest $100 million into a year-long tour and hope for his money back, because they've just pretty much put an end to that for now. So I'd love to see that come back. I don't know that it won't ever, but it's just that's a really big hill to climb right now. You know what I mean? Right now we're trying to figure out how to make sure that we can work one night a week in a small room for less money. So those huge tasks are way down the road. You know?
Yeah, because I can't imagine somebody. I know Garth Brooks is supposed to open up, Allegiant Stadium, or was supposed to, this summer, and then of course that got pushed back until February. But then, who knows what's going to happen come February? If the buying public is going to be happy enough and feel secure enough, going, okay, cool, yeah. Even though they may say, yeah, full capacity, knock yourself out. How many people are actually going to go ahead and buy 60-some thousand tickets to pack the stadium?
I don't see how that's possible anytime soon. I mean, whether it's because the public is squeamish about it, which is understandable, or whether it's because the promoter doesn't, he's not going to make any money having people 3 seats away. He's going to have a third of the crowd, or both. I just don't see how that's going to turn around. I certainly hope it does. I'd love to come back on here and talk to you about in February. Go, can you believe it? 60,000 people at one time. I'd love to have that conversation, but I just don't see how they're going to be able to turn that around that quickly. That's a large task. I am excited to see a couple of rooms opening here and there, but Vegas is not, as people are trying to portray it these days, is not open. I mean, it's by no means anything less than just a percentage of what it was beforehand, at best. So,
yeah, it's open, kind of. We're kind of open.
Yeah. I'm blessed. I'm working. It's cool. Everything's going to be okay. But I just, I'm not trying to be the pessimist, but I do wish that some folk would, I don't know, maybe shed a little bit more light on the reality of it. I talk to my family and friends from all over the country and all over the world, and they say, "Oh, how things in Vegas? Slow down a little bit. We slow down a little bit." I'm like, no, we have 19 properties or whatever that closed for good. We got huge chain businesses that are eliminated forever. We've got severe depression in the economy here. We've got no rooms open. I mean, what are you guys hearing in the news out where you're at about Las Vegas? If they're like, nothing. We thought maybe you were wear a mask at the gas station, slow down a little bit. I'm like, no, it's not. This ain't Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I mean, this plane went into the mountain, man. This is going to take a lot to get it back to, it's.
This plane went into the mountain, and we are eating members of the soccer team right now. Stay alive. But no, it's listen, you are a far too brilliant musician to be sitting on the sidelines as long as you have during this whole pandemic. And I know it's going to come back, and you're going to be kicking ass again. And when everything comes back, just promise me I get to meet Sheena Easton in person.
I can make that work for you. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have a show here sometime this coming year. In fact, we have one booked, but I won't say the date because I don't, in case it moves again, because it's moved a few times. But when that takes place, come on by the show, come back, and I'll introduce you to the first lady right there. So
I would love to meet her.
Awesome.
Joe, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. Thank you so much. I know you're going to be back at it, and people can. I'd like to pinpoint one place where they can see you, but you're like Herpes and Kathy Griffin. You're everywhere. I mean, they can't get rid of you. I mean, you're in lounges, you're doing private parties, you're working for Sheena Easton, you're doing all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, somebody look for this sexy mug.
I'm definitely stealing that. Herpes and Kathy. I said, I'm definitely stealing that. Kathy Griffin. I'm hoping they don't come screen to fix me yet.
They can't get rid of you. That is my good friend of mine, comedian Mike McCarthy, comic out of Boston. That is his line, and I love using it because it just cracks everybody up whenever I can. But man, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. Go back, enjoy your lanai, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
I got to head downtown and play a wedding here in a minute, so I get to put a suit on. I've been wearing pajamas, gym shorts for 8 months, so I finally get to learn how to tie.
You know what? Just do the old school clip-on tie like Hill Street Blues.
Well, like a Tommy Boy.
Yes. Yes. Joe, thanks again, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Derek. Stay safe.